Good evening, I'm Prasad Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. It was a big day for Anwar Ibrahim. He got to visit Istana Negara while many were expecting him to finally reveal his list of supporters. Even His Majesty the Agong didn't get to see it. PKR President Anwar Ibrahim spent less than an hour at Istana Negara this morning for an audience with the young di-Pertuan Agong, Sultan Abdullah, Sultan Ahmad Shah. Anwar is looking to convince His Majesty that he has garnered enough support in Parliament to form a new government. After leaving the palace without speaking to the media, Anwar held a press conference at Le Méridien in Kuala Lumpur, the same venue of his initial shocking announcement almost 4 weeks ago.
Of course, I take this opportunity to express my profound gratitude and appreciation to His Highness the di-Pertuan Agong for granting me an audience and giving me the opportunity to explain and present the relevant documents for his perusal. With these documents, it is abundantly clear that we have registered a formidable, convincing majority in Parliament, or among parliamentarians.
However, Anwar called on Malaysians to remain calm, explaining that the Agong would need time to deliberate on the matter.
I would appeal to the Malaysians to exercise patience, wisdom, and to allow the King to digest and decide based on the spirit of the Constitution and the discretion of His Highness. Meanwhile, we must also remember that Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has lost his majority and therefore would be appropriate for him to resign.
When pressed on the number of MPs who have backed him, Anwar had this to say.
Dia mencecah lebih dari 120, tetapi oleh kerana Yang di-Pertuan Agong akan memanggil ketua-ketua parti, maka munasabah untuk kita bersabar, memberi ruang dan wewenang kepada Yang di-Pertuan Agong untuk memutuskan.
Meanwhile, in a statement released by Istana Negara, comptroller of the royal household Ahmad Fadil Shamsuddin said Anwar did not provide the names of the MPs who supported him during his audience with the king. The palace said during the session, which lasted about 25 minutes, Anwar presented the total number of MPs who purportedly supported him. However, he did not furnish the names of these MPs to strengthen his claim. Therefore, the palace said Sultan Abdullah, Sultan Ahmad Shah advised Anwar to abide and respect the legal process as enshrined in the federal constitution. While Anwar Ibrahim was focused on his visit to Istana Negara today, Muhyiddin Yassin said he was focused on something very different. There are two kinds of leaders, according to Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin. This is what the Bersatu leader had to say when asked to comment on PKR President Anwar Ibrahim's visit to Istana Negara this morning.
So, I do not want to comment on what Anwar did at the palace. There's so much interest given to that. As far as I'm concerned, I think I leave it to the best judgment of the Agong. Yeah? The Agong, I think, is the most learned and qualified person. He has got his own way of doing things as per provided by the Constitution. So whatever the decision that he will make, he is always following whatever is provided in the Constitution. My concern and interest is not about that. In fact, when he was there at the Istana, I was here in front of the TV, video conferencing with all the members of the MKN to discuss about the COVID issue. Because my interest now is about managing COVID and of course managing the economy.
The Prime Minister is currently under quarantine after attending a meeting on October 3rd with a minister who later tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, several political party leaders have been summoned to the palace and their meetings are scheduled over the next few days. The first to have met the young di-Pertuan Agong was UMNO's Gua Musang MP Tengku Razaleigh Hamzah, who met with the monarch at 2 p.m. today. Malaysia now has over 5,000 active cases after recording the second highest number of new cases today. Malaysia continues to report a record number of new COVID-19 cases with 666 new infections today. This brings the total number of active cases to 5,345 cases, despite there being 350 recoveries reported today. Sabah continues to contribute the highest number of new cases with 443, followed by Selangor with 76 and Kedah with 60. 4 new deaths were also recorded, all in Sabah. This brings the official COVID-19 death toll to 163. The number of COVID-19 patients requiring intensive care also grew to 101, up from 98 yesterday, of which 32 require ventilator support. Meanwhile, the Cheras District Police Headquarters has become the latest government facility to be affected by the COVID-19 pandemic after 19 police personnel tested positive. In a couple of hours, Selangor, KL and Putrajaya will be under the CMCO. While you may lose some of the freedom you enjoyed in the past several weeks, you won't lose all of it. People will be allowed to dine in at eateries and restaurants under the Conditional Movement Control Order for Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya, according to Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob. However, it will be limited to 2 people per table. Nevertheless, Ismail said that people were encouraged to buy food through takeaways, deliveries and drive-thrus as your primary option.
Makan di premis makanan ataupun dine-in dibenarkan. Namun ianya terhad kepada 2 orang untuk 1 meja dengan pematuhan SOP yang ketat berdasarkan SOP sektor makanan. Ini juga telah kita laksanakan sewaktu PKPB bulan Mei dulu. Maknanya kita mulakan dulu dengan 2 orang untuk 1 meja, kemudian baru kita melonggarkan sedikit demi sedikit. Now kita balik kepada PKPB dulu.
Ismail also stressed that all economic activities, businesses and industries such as restaurants and sundry shops would be allowed to operate as usual, although their business hours would be limited from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. This comes after it was announced yesterday that the government will reimpose a conditional MCO on Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya effective midnight tonight. However, there are still activities people will not be able to take part in during the CMCO.
Mengenai aktiviti riadah, rekreasi dan budaya, semua aktiviti riadah, rekreasi dan budaya adalah tidak dibenarkan. Aktiviti hiburan termasuk kelab malam atau pub, pusat rekreasi, taman tema, indoor playground dan pengwayang adalah tidak dibenarkan. Mengenai aktiviti sukan. Aktiviti sukan secara individu, e-sports dan sukan yang tidak bersentuhan dan sukan outdoor ataupun luar yang tidak melebihi 10 orang adalah dibenarkan. Aktiviti kolam renang, bersentuhan fizikal, sukan bertempur dan penganjuran sukan atau kejohanan tidak dibenarkan.
Previously, only 6 districts in Sabah were subjected to the Conditional Movement Control Order, while 4 other districts were placed under the stricter Targeted Enhanced MCO. Now it is expanded to the whole of Sabah, and after midnight, Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya and Selangor will also be subjected to the CMCO. Inter-district travel will be allowed for work purposes with proper identification issued by employers. Coming up next, the EC is preparing for the next by-election. The Batu Sapi by-election dates have been announced by the EC with plenty of space for the COVID-19 situation to improve. The Election Commission, in line with the Federal Constitution, has agreed on the key dates for the Batu Sapi by-election. The announcement was made by EC Chief Abdul Ghani Saleh today, almost a week after he said delaying the election beyond 60 days as required by the Federal Constitution was not possible, despite the worsening COVID-19 pandemic situation in the country. So while the EC did not go beyond the 60 days, it appears they have pushed the election date back as much as possible.
Hari penamaan calon pada 23 November 2020, hari Isnin. Hari mengundi awal pada 1 Disember 2020, hari Selasa. Hari mengundi pada 5 Disember 2020, hari Sabtu. Tempoh berkempen yang ditetapkan adalah 12 hari selepas pengisytiharan calon-calon yang bertanding pada pukul 11.59 malam 4 Disember 2020 Jumaat.
This comes following the death of the incumbent MP VK Liu on October 2nd. BN and Parti Cinta Sabah have decided not to contest in the by-election to avoid a repeat of the Sabah state election aftermath that saw COVID-19 cases linked to campaign activities. BN Chief Ahmad Hamidi said the health and well-being of the people should be prioritised. UMNO Youth Chief Ashraf Wajdi Dusuki and DAP veteran Lim Kit Siang had previously urged for Warisan to be given a walkover in the by-election to avoid the need for campaigning and polling. In the announcement today, the EC also announced several restrictions in view of the current COVID-19 situation.
Semua calon tidak lagi dibenarkan berarak bersama para penyokong masing-masing atau mengadakan sebarang aktiviti berkumpulan. Hanya calon, seorang pencadang calon dan seorang penyokong calon sahaja dibenarkan masuk pusat penamaan calon.
The EC also said it's currently in the process of coming up with updated election guidelines to curb the spread of COVID-19. North Korean leader Kim Jongun displayed a rare show of emotion over the weekend. North Korean leader Kim Jongun became visibly emotional during a speech at a military parade over the weekend as he thanked troops for their sacrifices and apologized to citizens for failing to improve their lives. At a speech on Saturday during celebrations to mark the 75th anniversary of the founding of its ruling Workers' Party, Kim thanked thousands of gathered troops for responding to recent damaging storms and for helping prevent a coronavirus outbreak in the country. In video footage edited and released by the state television station, Kim appeared tearful and at one point seemed to choke up. Kim said he was grateful that not a single North Korean had been infected with the virus, a claim that the US and South Korean officials have previously cast doubt on. The impact of anti-coronavirus measures, international sanctions and several typhoons combined to prevent the government from following through on promises to improve citizens' lives, Kim said. He said, quote, "My efforts and sincerity have not been sufficient enough to rid our people of the difficulties in their life." He added, quote, "Our people, however, have always believed and absolutely trusted me and supported my choice and determination, whatever it is." North Korea's economy, already severely restricted by international sanctions imposed over its nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs, took a further hit as the country shut down nearly all border traffic in an effort to prevent a coronavirus outbreak. The United Nations has said that as much as 40% of the population faces food shortages, which may have been exacerbated by severe summer floods and typhoons. In a scene common to many such events in North Korea, most people in the audience also had tears streaming down their faces. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'll be back with more tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching.